So if you're thinking about moving to San Diego or anywhere in California, there are real things you need to know about before you really commit to making that move. And in this video, I'm gonna take you through everything there is to know about making that move to California, the things that are very rarely shared, and just some things that you really wanna think about. I'm gonna take you through the good, the bad, the ugly, everything in between, so that you understand that there are decision points that most people overlook and you won't want to. So if you want that information, you're thinking about making that move, well, stick with us because we're gonna get after it right now. Hey, if this is your first time to the channel, make sure you subscribe and make sure you hit that bell, tap it for notifications so that you know everything that's happening right here in the San Diego market. I'm Dan Beer, and every single day, people just like you are sending us text messages, phone calls, emails, and we set up Zoom calls, and we absolutely love it. So whether you're thinking about making that move in 9 days, 9 months, 9 years, anything in between, just go ahead, get a hold of us. We'll help you make a smooth move right here to San Diego and across California, where we can land you with the right person so that you don't make the mistakes or overlook the things that we'll cover in this video. All right, so if you're moving to California, number one is be ready for all of your friends, your family to want to visit you. So hopefully you're thinking that's a good thing. Everyone has that Cali dream, right? So just know that if you're in San Diego, if you're in LA, if you're in Santa Barbara, if you're in Carmel, if you're in Monterey, if you're in Santa Cruz, if you're in San Francisco, I mean, there's just so many amazing places across California, and you're likely going to become that place where everyone plans their vacation. So get ready to start becoming a host. Now, having said that, they're going to have a long flight. So I really think that one of the things you need to know if you're making that move to California is, look, from most of the country, okay, whether if you're like, you could be in Tennessee, you could be in Georgia, you could be in Florida, and it wouldn't be a wild idea. You could be in Charlotte, it would be a very normal idea that you could hop over to like Cartagena, Colombia for a weekend getaway. Or you can get out to Key West, or you could go to Jamaica, you can go to BVI, you can go to all of just such a diversity of places outside of the country. Key West, of course, is in the country. But you have such a diversity of places that you could just hop over to. Well, not so much here, okay? Right here, like we have really great access to like Arizona. We have really amazing access to Vegas. Some people think that's cool. And that's about it, okay? Like Hawaii, which we have the closest access to, it's still 5 hours away. And I guess our closest equivalent to kind of, that pop over to Colombia and, you're in Cartagena, just a wildly different environment, would be like Cabo for us. Cabo is cool, don't get me wrong. I go there most years, but having said that, it's not that cool. It's definitely not Colombia cool. So there's just not as much diversity of where you can get to very easily in under a 3-hour flight. If you're, again, in any of these kind of central and southern states, or even into the Northeast, the majority of the country is 2 hours away from you. But here, almost everything is at least a 3-hour flight, So just know that it's a little bit isolated. Granted, there's so many different places you can visit within California, but it is a big, long state. So from a driving perspective, if you're coming here from the East Coast, you might be accustomed to driving, 3 states over just to go get something, to go visit a place or to see family and drive back. Well, you could drive for 10 hours north of San Diego. You're still nowhere near the northern border of California. So it's not the easiest of locations to just pop over for little quick weekend getaways across the country or to any kind of diversity of other more exotic locations like you could from the East Coast. Next thing about California that stands out for me is it's definitely a driving state. So get ready to spend a whole bunch on gas. And even if you have an electric car, well, you're gonna spend a whole bunch on electricity. And it's just one of these things where it's a place you're driving, you better get accustomed to traffic, and we just really don't have great public transportation. In fact, an interesting story is if you go back to, and I don't know the year, but if you go back many years, many decades, there was actually an incredible public transportation train system that was servicing California. And what happened is, I believe it was GM, don't quote me, but they actually literally bought out the railroads to shut them down to put the cars on the road. So if you are somebody that appreciates the subway system as an example in a place like just so many of the eastern cities in the country. You're not going to find that here. You're not going to find it here. LA has like a small little subway system. It's not great. I don't know anyone that's actually ever been in it. And I'm sure in San Francisco they have an okay above ground train system, but it's going to get you around town. It's not going to get you up and down the coast as efficiently as you would like. Now there is the coaster, and I have taken the coaster to as far as Santa Barbara, definitely taken it to LA a number of times. But once you get there and you don't have a car, you're not in the really great spot, right? So going to LA on the train sounds amazing because you can just kind of relax, work on your laptop, do whatever it is you need to do, read a book or go to sleep. But once you're there, you are very much stuck and you are going to be hitting traffic, Ubering everywhere. We just don't have walkable cities. We have walkable sections within our cities, but it's not like what you might be accustomed to, depending on where you're coming from. Now, next thing is, a lot of realtors like to shy away from ever talking politics or anything like that. I'm not coming to you from a political standpoint. You won't know where I am, where I stand, or any of the rest of it. But I'm just, right, we have to acknowledge what is, because what is. And so definitely a more liberal slanted state. And so some people can be right-wing or conservative or just, right of center. They can be whatever thing. But they can appreciate, interact with, tolerate, live amongst, and be even friends with, what a crazy idea, people with other opposing views. Now, some people can't. So this is a place where you would just have to be honest with yourself. If you're the type that just couldn't possibly be around anyone that is more left-leaning, we'll just call it, then you're going to be really annoyed a lot of the time here in California, especially in the big cities. Now, interestingly enough, if you get out of the big cities, California is just like most places in the country where it's going to very much go the other way and lean right. But if you're in the big cities across the state, and certainly we have some of the biggest cities in the country all here in California, I mean, it's one of the biggest economies on the planet is California, then in any of these cities, especially in the center of those cities, you can expect that you're just going to, for the most part, find that it is very much consistently that way. Again, not making comment on what I think about it, where I lean, any of the rest of it. That's not the point of this. But I do want you to just be prepared for what you'd bump into, because some people on the left, they can't live amongst people on the right. Some people on the right can't live amongst people on the left, and some can absolutely do it and in fact enjoy the diversity of it. So you just have to be honest with who you are. Another major consideration you're going to want to have is affordability and taxes. So let's go really quickly through what you could expect from a median home price perspective across the major cities in our state. And then I want to go to the tax side, okay, just so you're really clear on that. But there is a tax benefit that most people completely ignore and don't think about because of the bad rap we get for our taxes here, that actually is a really good benefit and to some extent will mitigate some of the higher taxes we have. So I'll make sure that I hit on that in just a moment. So let's go really quickly. Median home price, San Diego, $915,000. LA, $950,000, so a little more expensive. San Francisco, $1.4 million. United States, $428,000. So we are, I mean, shoot, if you're in San Francisco, you're more than 3 times the average or the median home price across the country. That is the most expensive place in the state is San Francisco. And of course, LA $950,000, San Diego $915,000. So hey, we get the award for least expensive. We're the most affordable major city in the state, which by the way is true. If you look at and it's always been amazing to see, because if you go up the coast, just take coastal real estate in San Diego, it's expensive. Okay, you could easily be looking at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, $15 million homes, but put that home in Santa Barbara. Put that home in Montecito, put that home in Carmel and Monterey and San Francisco, surely, and put it in Malibu, way more expensive. So it's as expensive as we are here in San Diego, the rest of the state is more expensive, okay? So that's the first thing to know if you're making that move, is you just have to be aware of what the prices are gonna be. Yes, our incomes are higher too, so that kind of offsets some of the affordability. But still, when you look at your income in California and then you're thinking, oh, what a great raise I have, just know that a lot of it's going to go to cost of living, because it doesn't just stop there. Those increases aren't just about housing. Our gas prices are ridiculous, and most things cost at least a little bit more here in California. But let's go to state taxes. And I've got this up here because it's depressing for me to memorize, and it's just too many numbers. But I wouldn't want to memorize this because I'd be depressed constantly. I'm going to take you through some of the tax brackets. So let's just go to, say, a household earning $100,000 a year. Your household earning $100,000 a year as a married or a couple filing jointly, you're talking about an 8% state tax on top of the federal taxes you'd be paying at that earning level. So it's a pretty substantial number, okay? That's that sunshine tax that people talk about. Our top tax rate here in California tops out at 12.3%, though having said that, that is for people married filing jointly, earning in excess of $1.25 million. So sure, that is a very, very high income, but just know 12.3% of that is going to taxes, extra taxes, not even counting federal. So just, it's one of those things. But here's the thing that most people ignore when they're talking about California taxes, because the news, of course, likes to just pound on the negative. But we have really affordable property taxes. Now, granted, our property prices are high, so the dollars still add up, but we have a 1% property tax. And we have the greatest thing on earth, which was a law that was passed that your property taxes cannot increase any more than a 2% increase per year. And I don't mean going from a 1% property tax to a 3%. No, I'm talking about that if you're paying $10,000 a year in property taxes, the most you can possibly pay if you get a higher assessment, no matter what the assessment is. I mean, the assessment could be the county assessor decided your home is now $5 million more than it was last time. That's fine. Your property taxes cannot rise. So that means that they can only go from $10,000, if you were paying $10,000 a year, the most you could increase in that year is the $10,200. So really a beautiful way of keeping those property taxes low. There's some states across the country, if you're coming here from Florida, from New Jersey, from Texas, there's a lot of states across the country where property taxes can be 3%, even 4% of property value. Not so the case here. And there's also ways here that that you can take your property tax basis. Let's imagine this. You bought a home years and years and years ago for $400,000, and that home is now worth $1 million. And you're looking to make a move, and you've been carrying your property tax base from that $400,000 number with these tiny little microscopic increases. So maybe you're paying $5,000 a year, just to throw a number out. Okay, well now the beautiful thing is if you're selling your home, which is now $1 million, if you sell it because now it's time for you to downsize and you're moving to a less expensive property, it just has to be less expensive by $1. You get to carry your property tax basis with you. So now you could be purchasing a $900,000 property, paying taxes like you just were the day before on that home that you'd originally purchased for $400,000. So there are some property tax advantages that in some ways counteract or counterbalance the very high income taxes. But having said that, income taxes here, they're not that fun. They're not that fun. And by the way, let's go to sales taxes. Sales taxes can be, depending on the municipality, again, you're talking amongst the highest in the country. So gonna have to just take that into account and make sure you weigh that when you are making that consideration of moving, certainly here to San Diego or anywhere in California. To close the video out, let's also just acknowledge some of the natural hazards, okay? So we're famous for our earthquakes. Yay! That's really great that we're famous for earthquakes, but we also have our wildfires. We have mudslides. We have drought. We need rain. LA is one of the most polluted cities in the country. Be aware of that. But the nice thing is there's a lot of areas that are beautiful, pristine, green, like some of the most natural beauty you'll see in your entire life. You go up and down the coast. You go to a place like Big Sur. You go to a place like La Jolla right here in San Diego County. Sunset Cliffs right here in San Diego County. Yosemite is part of California. Mount Whitney, and it's the highest point in the contiguous lower 48 right here in California. So we have this incredible just balance of pros and cons from from so many different standpoints. And look, I want to just acknowledge this. Number one is I am like pro California as much as you could possibly be, in that, well, what's the biggest vote I'm giving it? I live here, I raise my family here. So all I want to do is, I think that sometimes when you're talking to a realtor, you're talking to an agent, and that's what I am, of course, you're getting only the good, the good, the good, the good, the good, the good. Well, I think we need to acknowledge also that not anywhere or any place is perfect. So no matter where we were talking about in the country, we'll come up with the cons, right? The negatives, but they're hard to find, especially from salespeople. So I'm committed to one thing, the unfiltered truth. And so these other things that we're considering, it's just something you need to know, because we have just higher utility bills, for example, because we have drought, our water costs are higher. We have the traffic issues that I've discussed. And again, from a natural just disaster standpoint, it's really beautiful and amazing that we don't have the regular hurricane, or the ever hurricanes, we don't get them. We don't have the tornadoes. We don't have any of that stuff, which is awesome. Our earthquakes, I should mention to you this. Yes, there's earthquakes. The heavy ones, there's no guarantee what comes in the future. But if you look back, do your research, the heavy ones have been very much north of San Diego. The biggest rattle I can think of growing up, and in my whole life that I've spent here, was one where, everything was shaking. Nothing happened, nothing broke, nothing really happened. So when you're talking about like your Northridge earthquakes, your San Francisco earthquakes, like those do tend to happen more severely in other areas of California. Up north, I don't know why, but that's just, that's a good thing, especially for us here in San Diego. I can tell you that we spend virtually 0 seconds thinking about earthquakes here. Okay, so I think that I'm just acknowledging it because there's people, you might be someone watching this thinking about moving here from somewhere else. They are like a zero factor in any decision making that we experience on a day-to-day basis. What plays in more really to our thinking of, am I going to live here? Am I going to live there? What kind of insurance do I need? All those sorts of things. What does play in more is actually the wildfires. The wildfires, for a number of reasons, is we've seen them really come up close to neighborhoods where we never thought we would see them. And it is having an impact on our insurance costs. Okay, so that is really the thing that you would want to think about and just know about. And it's again, just one of those decisions on when you're looking at different neighborhoods, just ask, hey, tell me about wildfire history in this area. How close did it come? And make sure that you're getting an insurance quote so that you know the real price of living in any particular property, because it's not going to just be the mortgage and the property taxes. Make sure you have your insurance quote. A lot of them, by the way, are like no big deal, totally normal quotes, but some of them, if you're backing on a brush, can really spike. So just something to know. And there are so many other things, of course, that if you're looking to make that move right here to San Diego or anywhere across California, outside of San Diego, we'll make a referral to you to someone that is just as unfiltered with the truth, and will address you. We'll just make it easy for you. Make it easy, because that's ultimately our goal. We want to give you certainty in what you're doing, and we want to help you make a smooth move. So stick with us, subscribe to the channel. We'll see you on the next one.